All right, grown-ups, it's just our time. I love the babies, but to help you, I gotta speak my mind. This segment's here to help you grow with book reviews, lessons, and things you'll be glad to know. If your little one's restless or looking to play, send them to my other playlist. The read-alouds there will brighten their day. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Teacher Lady Show. I'm Miss Erica, the Teacher Lady, your fairy godparent when it comes to sharing joyful stories and growing young minds. Now, on this segment, we have the Teacher Lady Speaks. This is where I use my experience teaching tiny humans to help enhance your experience raising them, okay? And this is done through honest reflection, insight, and resources from a well-meaning educator, hey, that's me, that understands how hard it is to raise children and how hard it is to do love work. So that's social work, teaching, parenting, so on and so forth. Now, all this week we have been talking about financial literacy. How do we raise children who are financially literate, who understands what it means to have money, to save their money, and to even purchase the things that they desire, okay? And of course, we use picture books to be able to do so. So if you have not checked out all of the videos on the playlist, be sure to check out our read-alouds as well as our behind the book reviews. But for now, we're going to jump straight into today's segment, which is the Teacher Lady Speaks. You ready? Let's grow. We started this week, our financial literacy week, with 2 read-alouds, and those books were Money Should Grow on Trees, a book written and illustrated by me that explores Milo and his journey in getting his first job at his family business. We also read All Through the Night, which is a children's book that really highlights the jobs that are done at night, often invisible to the masses, okay? So both of those read-alouds are available for you to check out, as well as the behind the book reviews, where I let you know how you can use these books as a resource to raise more financially literate children. And today we're going to be wrapping it all up in the Teacher Lady Speaks to raise more financially literate children. Let's keep going. Defining the topic for a child. If I was explaining financial literacy to a child, I would want them to understand how our economy works. And most of the time, we make money by working, right? So I would explain to a child, you see that mirror over there, or your shoes or your shirt. Well, each one of these aspects or these items had jobs attached to them. So with your shirt, somebody gathered the cotton, somebody sewed on the buttons, somebody mailed it, a mail carrier picked it up and delivered it to our house. That list continues. Everything is connected through work. And oftentimes we are paid or compensated for that work, okay? And then you can go into explaining, well, what do you do with money? So if you are a seamstress and you sew buttons on shirts and then you make that money, now can you just go buy $1,000 worth of ice cream? Probably not, because there are things you need to buy. And then that child might say, well, what things do you need to buy? And then you can have that conversation. Maybe you discuss electricity and the cost of electricity, or maybe you discuss grocery shopping or the cost of food. And this is not to overwhelm children, but we wait too late to have conversations around how our economy is structured, okay? And so it is very important that you start early, not overwhelming and stressing your child out, but educating and informing them so that they are confident in the decisions that they make or in the jobs that they take. And so I would have a very light, and this depends on the age of the child, but if I was introducing the concept to a child, I would have a light conversation around what working is, the importance of working, and then what we do with the money that we earn and why. All right. What are schools required to teach? Now, as always, we compare the state of California to the state of Texas to better understand what your child might be learning in school, okay? California financial literacy is embedded across multiple grade levels through history, social science, and mathematics standards. Starting in kindergarten through second grade, students identify community jobs and understand the concept of earning and spending. By grades 3 to 5, they learn about producers, consumers, goods, services, and how resources are used to meet needs. So in middle school in California, the standards require lessons on entrepreneurship and budgeting and saving, as well as global trade. So how does the United States trade with Mexico? What are those goods and services? And then in high school, which I just feel like is way too late, the economics standards explicitly address things like managing credit, taxes, and long-term financial goals. In 2024, the California Department of Education announced updates emphasizing financial empowerment and requiring all students to receive personal finance instruction before graduating by 2030 as part of a statewide push to prepare youth for real world decision making. Okay. So in the state of California, there are things embedded in the curriculum to raise financially literate children. Now, I will say this. I teach in the state of California. I am also a graduate of California Public Schools. And it is important to know that just because the curriculum says that your child is going to learn it does not mean that that concept is actually sitting in. This is going to be determined by how your child learns. If you have an English language learner, if you have a child with a developmental difference, or if you have a child who is neurotypical, but the teacher is boring. All of those things impact whether or not your child actually gets the information. And so even though I would say that there is significant strides being made within our state curriculum, you still have to make sure as the grown-up, as the adults, that your child is actually understanding and getting the concept of financial literacy because of how important it is. All right, moving on to the state of Texas. So Texas integrates financial literacy through both mathematics and economics and emphasis on the free enterprise system, but this is not until high school. So in elementary school, Texas standards introduce needs versus wants, earning income, and spending decisions, but it's just a basic introduction. In fourth grade, students are expected to explain the importance of work and describe how income affects choices. Then by middle school, students study banking, credit, and entrepreneurship. At the high school level, all students must complete an economics course that covers managing budgets, taxes, and financial planning. So similarly to California, the state of Texas has expanded their financial literacy curriculum. And in 2021, House Bill 3 required that personal financial literacy standards be included at every grade level, K through 12. In 2023, the Texas Financial Literacy and Career Readiness Standards were revised to help teachers integrate lessons about jobs, entrepreneurship, and responsible money management into core subjects. So together, both states do recognize and acknowledge the importance of financial literacy. So this is a rare week that both states have what I feel a sufficient amount of information geared towards financial literacy, the importance of it. But I will always remind you to make sure that you are personally teaching the things that your child needs to know, that you think your child needs to know. And of course, that includes money. I recently had a conversation with my daughter. We were watching this movie, Queen of Catway. And in the movie, there are two very different dynamics. There are children who don't have school at all. And then there are children who have a very elite private school experience with the uniforms, the organic lunches, so on and so forth. And so we were having this conversation and I was explaining to her that the school that she attends would be similar to the private school with the uniforms, but that there are people both in Uganda as well as in the United States of America that don't have access to school or that don't have access to quality education and schooling. And when I was talking to her about, well, why do some have and why don't some have, it comes down to money. It is the sad reality of our life and our world's experience is that money oftentimes determines what you're able to purchase, what you're able to do, where you're able to go, how you're able to get there, and so much more. And so I know that the words that we choose to use to describe financial literacy, financial competency, and even just the importance of money is very important. But you want to have the conversation nonetheless, because when I was growing up, it was a lot of, do you have McDonald's money? Do you have money to go there? Put that back. Don't look at it. My thoughts around money were very shortened. They were very tight, meaning I never felt like I could afford anything. And I felt like every time I was going to ask for something, it was going to be no. And then I raised my child, and my child feels like everything should just fall out the sky and everybody should just give her whatever it is she's looking for. And, that list kind of continues. She was vending with her dad, and she was trying to sell a book, and the person said, I don't have any money. And then she went to go try to give them her money because her money is very flowing. And I think that there is a balance between the two. We don't want to raise children in the way that I was raised, in a sense of scarcity, and that we don't have enough, we're not going to have enough, we can't afford. Those messages are very harmful. We also don't want to raise children who literally think that everything is just going to appear, right? And so you want to have a balance when you're having these conversations so that children understand that work goes into the things that they have, but also you can have them, and you do have them, and you should enjoy them. Let's keep going. Resources you can use to raise a child that is more financially literate. The first resource I want to bring your attention to is one actually sponsored by our government. It's called mymoney.gov, and it is a U.S. Treasury resource with interactive tools and games to help kids understand earning, saving, and sharing. So this is a really awesome resource that children can hop on to just start to understand, again, how our economy works, because there is so much to learn. So this is great for both the classroom as well as at home. The second resource I want to bring your attention to is Junior Achievement USA. Now, there is only so much you're going to get for their free option, but it does offer K through 12 programs and simulations that teach entrepreneurship, budgeting, and workforce readiness. So that is something you want to check out. The next resource I like because it really does get your child involved in their own money decisions, and that's called Meant for Kids. It's an online budgeting tool where children can learn to track expenses, set goals, and see where their money flows. So whether that's money from a birthday party or they get an allowance at home, which I'm actually not that fond of, but we'll talk about that in best practices, or they've earned money working a job, Meant for Kids is going to help them to determine what they should do with that money. The next resource I mention often because it is a favorite, and that is PBS Kids has a resource called It's My Life Money. And this is a fun, kid-friendly platform that explores things like allowance, jobs, and savings for what matters most. So I would say it's a younger version of the Junior Achievement program that I was talking about earlier, geared towards younger children, but it is an interactive tool that is great for kids. And then the last resource I'm going to focus in on today, and of course, if you want more, you already know, subscribe to my newsletter and I will send that out. This one is called Biz Kids. Do y'all remember Bill Nye, the science guy? Bill. Anyways, Bill Nye, or the producers of Bill Nye, the science guy, created a resource called Biz Kids. This is a free video series that teaches money management and entrepreneurship through real kid examples. So this is a video-based platform that is extremely helpful in explaining the complex systems of our economics in this country. Okay, best practices at home. The first I touched on briefly earlier, but you really want to be mindful about how you speak about money with your child. If you are constantly dodging bill collectors, in front of your child, if you're constantly talking about what you can't afford and how much you don't have, if you're constantly yelling at your child when they spill cereal, because financially speaking, that is a stress on your family, they feel that. I had to do so much unlearning to relearn how free-flowing money can be. It does not have to be like this all the time. And I didn't know that because that's what I was shown growing up. And so one of the best practices is to be mindful. Your child should not know all of your financial burdens. They are a child. And there is a level of security and protection that they deserve when it comes to their mental health. Having the awareness that your family is about to be evicted, having the awareness that you can't afford anything, having the awareness not to look around or not to ask for nothing, or constantly being asked if you have enough money to do the thing that you want to do, that is overwhelming. And it absolutely impacts the thought processes of how we feel about money when we become adults. So the first best practice is to just be mindful. It's super simple. Even if you are having a hard time, you are going through a lot financially, your child does not need to be aware of every single financial burden that is going on in your life as the adult. So that is my first best practice. My next best practice when it comes to raising children who are financially literate is to get them involved in the day-to-day. So you go to the grocery store, they go to checkout, have them check out. Have them tap the credit card or type in the PIN, if you trust your kid, of course. Have them use the cash to get the money back. One of the things that I've started doing with my daughter, which we've actually caught a few errors, is check the price of what is supposed to be on the app versus how it rings up. And so to constantly be looking at the monitor to make sure that she is not being mischarged for the thing that she's purchasing. She has her own money that has nothing to do with me. She has the option to save it. She has the option to spend it. And so getting your child involved in their own finances is super imperative, okay? Having them understand how they make money, what are some ways they're able to earn money, having them involved in the shopping processes, even if it's them shopping with you and it's your items or it's your household items. Normalizing our economic and our financial system is extremely important for raising financially confident and literate children. And so involve them in that process. The next I would say is do away with the allowance for things that we all do. So here's an example. In my house, I clean the kitchen, daddy cleans the kitchen, daddy cleans the kitchen. Everybody cleans the kitchen. I'm not paying you for cleaning the kitchen. Why? You eat in the kitchen like everybody else. You made the mess like everybody else. And just like everybody else, you should contribute to cleaning. It is very important, in my opinion, that when children earn money, it is for things that are not expected of them anyway. It's something else. You have to do something else. And so I expect you to put your stuff away, and I expect you to clean the kitchen, and I expect you to do good in school. I'm not going to pay you for those things because I want those things to be automatic. Okay. Now, what I will pay you for is helping with our book business, helping to shred papers that, need to be shredded with our office work or office work from our business. What I will pay you for is if you have social media channels and that generates income. That's not my money. That's yours. And so being clear that they are being compensated for doing something else. It's the same reason I don't give money for birthdays. It's like you turn 10, here's $10. There's no association. If you want your child to be intentional about money, they also have to be intentional about how that money is earned, if that makes sense. And so by constantly giving for things that you expect them to do anyway, it kind of dampers that, or it waters it down for me. Now, some alternatives, if you ain't got it, you like, well, we ain't got no book business and I ain't got no papers to shred. So what we doing? Have them get creative. Are they interested in baking? Are they interested in a lemonade stand? Is there another local business that maybe they can work at? Of course, make sure it's age appropriate. But what is it that they're interested in? And is there a way that they can earn money for that thing? The other thing is that all money does not have to be real quite yet. When my child was younger, I would say about 3 years old. I feel like after 3, I couldn't do it anymore. I would take her to Chuck E. Cheese and I would give her like an old debit card and just let her basically act like it was the card for Chuck E. And she would just run it up. And she would bang on everything and she would play with all the lights. And in her mind, she's spending all of this and she got it and she's good, when really you're not spending anything at all. Creativity is a wonderful best practice. Be creative. If your child is younger, be creative. They don't have to have a lot of money. They don't have to have real money. You can do paper money. You can do a card. You can even do things that are not directly involved in money. Like maybe they want to pick the movie for the week and they have to earn so many whatevers in order to be able to choose. You can be creative. I don't want you to think that you have to give your child money in order for them to understand that concept. It is okay for them to get an actual job and for you to help to manage that money when they get that actual job. My next best practice is to be very open around the discussions around money and bills, again, without being overwhelming. So your child should understand there is an electricity bill. Turn the light off for 2 reasons. One, environmentally, let's not waste energy. Also, the longer we keep this light on, the more we pay for that light. Turn it off if it's not being used. And so just having these conversations, normalizing money, normalizing how money works, it all helps. I would also point out all the people that are working around them. Why do you think the person is bagging our groceries? Who do you think cleans the school? Get their mind flowing around what a lot of people see as invisible jobs, jobs that don't get enough attention, jobs that we just kind of expect to be there. We just expect people to go to the airport and do security so that we can get on our plane without recognizing, no, this is actually somebody's life. They actually get compensated for this, or should. And so the importance around pointing out the things that surrounds them without overwhelming is going to help you to raise the most financially literate child. Okay, let's keep going. I also think that it's very important for you to explain to your child that different jobs do tend to come with different pay. Okay. And so them having the understanding that you don't have to go to college, but if you go to college, you might be able to make this instead of that. Them understanding their own lifestyle. You have people who want very glamorous lifestyles. They want somebody to drive them around. They want somebody to cook for them. They want somebody to clean their house. Well, that's going to cost a lot more than a very simple person who lives an environmentally friendly life, a simple life, who is completely okay working with a cafe, and that is enough for them. You want to get out of the, this is good work and this is bad work. This is poor work and this is rich work. We don't want to do that. Instead, we want to expose them to a variety of experiences so that they know what it takes to fund the lifestyle that they're looking for. Not everybody wants all the glitz and glams. Some people's hair costs $1,000 to do, and some people's hair is free because it's just water and the same oil they use to make their eggs. Okay. There is such a wide variety of lifestyle that you need your children to understand that they get to choose the one that feels right for them, that they get to choose the job that feels right for them, that they get to do the things to make the money that feels good for them. If they're an artist, let them be an artist. If they are an entrepreneur and want a business and run a business, that's great too. But I think that we put too much emphasis on having to be multi-millionaires and generational wealth and all of these things that are just like, whoa, like our family been poor for how long? And I'm supposed to be the one to make all this money and help everybody. It can be very overwhelming. And there are jobs that our society doesn't value, but they should. And your child should be able to also do one of those jobs. And so what I'm trying to say is, as much attention as you put on the Jay-Z's of the world, you should also put on that local cashier who rang up your bagel this morning. Allow them to understand that multiple jobs hold importance and significance. And depending on the lifestyle they're looking for, it's going to depend on how much money they need to make. And then the last best practice, be as open and transparent with your child as possible. So for me, my daughter, I have no problem with her knowing I take this percent of our check for retirement, and explaining what retirement is. This much of our check pays our bills, and explaining what that is. This much of our check covers this. I talk to her about that process so that it's normal. One best practice that I had to learn, and that was really hard for me because of how I was raised, was thinking that my child was not appreciative or grateful enough. And so in the beginning, it was like, she doesn't know how much I work. It was me venting to my husband about how hard we work and how much we do to make sure she has a great life. And she just doesn't get it. I'll give an example. I went to Ross and I bought my daughter some new shoes. I think I bought her like 5 pairs of shoes. And I came out of Ross and I got in the car and I showed her the shoes. And she was like, okay. And I think she might have said thank you, but it was very dry. And what I wanted was the excitement and the joy that I would have felt getting 5 new pairs of shoes being a child, right? Very different mindset around gifts and around money. And I talked to my husband when we got home about my anger. And I was like, I got her these shoes and she didn't even seem like she cared. And she should have been more appreciative about the shoes and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you want a child who knows abundance and who understands that there are endless opportunities, yet and still you want the child to be like throwing a big party or have this huge response behind shoes. It's just shoes. It's not toys. She didn't do anything wrong. You bought her shoes because she needs shoes. And there was a real beauty and a peace in that, because it was something that I struggled with for a while and honestly still do. Trying to change and break generational things that I have been exposed to has been hard. But having the understanding that it is just shoes for her and that she would have a bigger reaction if it was something bigger. But I have normalized this idea of abundance, and I want to do that, and I want her to have that, and I want her to know that life is on her side and that she can accomplish her goals while simultaneously being appreciative and acknowledging the work that is around her. So there is a real balance and challenge. And so I guess if I had to sum up this best practice, it is to check in with yourself. What expectations are you carrying over from your own experiences? What are the things in your life that might be impacting or influencing some of your thought processes around your child and how you speak to them and interact with them around money or gifts? So just something to think about and consider. When to seek help. There are 2 people I want to address when it comes to this section. The first is you, and the second is your child. So for you, you want to seek help when you recognize that you have great financial anxiety when it comes to anything financial. You're having panic attacks when you're checking out at the grocery store. You're not opening mail because you're too overwhelmed and shutting down. You don't want to look at your bank statements. You don't want to look at how much money you owe. You are having a really big, hard emotional response to your finances. It is time for you to seek help. I am a strong believer that it is hard to teach something that you don't know yourself. And so if these are things that you're struggling with in terms of the mentality and the mindset around money, then you want to get yourself help so that you can then pass on more healthier habits to your children. And that help might be in the sense of a financial advisor. A lot of times, I know specifically in California, we have community financial advisors. And so if you are in a certain tax bracket, you can get your taxes filed for free, but you can also get some financial help in terms of information and education. How much should you be saving for retirement? Or do you need to pick up another job to make ends meet? So on and so forth. So the first person to seek help would be you. And then in regards to your child, if your child is holding those same kind of financial anxieties and worries and panics, you want to get them help as well. And that might be some help through a guidance counselor at school. It might be a doctor if you start to notice that those panic attacks are really, really bad. Or it could also be a meeting with a financial advisor or somebody, depending on their age, to just help them to manage their money, help them to manage their career and their career goals. And so if you're having huge negative emotional responses to money, you have to do something about it if you want your child to be equipped to be financially self-sufficient in our society. Common questions. My child only wants to spend money and they don't want to save anything. Well, my question then becomes, where are they getting the money from? Is it a situation where they're working a summer job and they just want to spend that? Are you giving them money and they're spending that? Because part of money should be them buying what they want to buy, right? Like that, there is a real gratification in being like, hey, I want my nails done and I got nails done money, so I'm gonna get my nails done. Like there is something really fulfilling about that. Also, on the flip side of that, the nails can only come after my needs are met. And so the same is true with children. If they are working and you take all of their money and you save it, then it gives them no direct gratification and it gives them no understanding that you work towards the things that you desire. Instead, some should be saved, and it should be saved for a specific purpose. Your child, it is not their responsibility to save for their own college fund. You cannot convince me otherwise. I feel like it is the parents' responsibility. So if they're saving, it should be for something that they should be saving towards. Maybe it is their own emergency savings. Maybe it is saving towards something bigger. But overall, when it comes to children, it should be in and out. They've earned money. They've saved it towards something important. Maybe a small amount goes towards college, but they've saved it to towards something important. And they have the gratification of being able to purchase what it is that they like to purchase. I know for my daughter, it is a lot of, this is your funds, but when it's out, it's out. So if I were you, I would save some, because you never know what else you're going to want to buy and you don't know when you're going to work again. But if you don't want to, it's up to you, because life experiences oftentimes are the best teachers. Let's keep going. Another common question is, what if I'm not great with money myself? I talked about this briefly under best practices, but get better. Get better. Start to educate yourself. Start to listen to podcasts. Start to meet with financial advisors. Start to understand the issue, because you can't budget your way out of not having enough money. Sometimes the only solution is to make more money. Sometimes you can't reduce your bills anymore. And so if you are not the best, try to get better and try to pass on the habits that you wish you would have known when you were a child to your own children. There's no shame. Most of us are living in debt. Most of us are struggling financially. Most of us are working to make ends meet. And that shouldn't be a shame point. I do think, though, that we should not be hiding and running from money and from the way that our economy works, because it is way too much energy, and you do have the ability to become more knowledgeable. So go do that. How do I raise a child who understands abundance without being entitled? This is a very hard concept to grasp, and it's actually something that I struggle with in my own personal life. And I believe the best way to do so is to not point out the financial cost of every single thing. And so you're making eggs in the morning and you state how much eggs cost now and how expensive they're getting and how much it is per egg. That is very overwhelming. And what it does for the child is it allows them, and it starts to put these thoughts in their head, that everything is so expensive and it costs too much. And what am I going to do? And what if I don't have enough? And you start to plant that seed early. Okay. Now, in terms of entitlement, entitlement often comes from children having no understanding that things are being done for them or given to them. And so you don't need to explain every single thing, like the eggs and the paper plates and the gas used, the gas bill used to make the eggs. But I would definitely have consistent conversations around what I do for work, why I work, why that's important, and how that contributes to their well-being. Also, utilize books. Money Should Grow on Trees really is a beautiful example of this. A child who was raised in abundance, and as a result of not understanding where that abundance came from, has some entitlement until he got a job to better understand how much work it takes to maintain the lifestyle that he has. And so using picture books and using books as a way to have these conversations with your child is also super valuable and will help you to raise a well-grounded child when it comes to financial literacy. My final thoughts are: you don't have to force your child to be an entrepreneur. They're not responsible for generational wealth. And you want to raise children who are financially sound, meaning they are able to work and they are able to earn an income that is sustainable for themselves. You don't want to stress your child out, but you do want them to be exposed to things around them. And as contradicting as all of this may seem, it all comes back to balance. You can raise a financially literate child, and you can become better at money yourself if it is a struggle for you, because most of my topics start with the grown-up and trickle down to the child. Thank you so much for learning with me. Thank you for growing with me. And thank you for being part of this book-loving community. If you did not know, I am the author and illustrator of 9 diverse books, various topics: self-love, recycling, money, Black history, and more. Those books also encourage something called the Empathy Library, which is a pay-it-forward program that gets intentional books to children in need. That means I have a student who's from Honduras who loves dinosaurs, and now they get children books that are in Spanish about dinosaurs. It is an intentional library to that child to help encourage literacy. As always, thank you for being with me today. I love what we're doing here on this channel. I love the show that we're building. And remember to enjoy the moment, or go be a joy in the moment. Bye.